I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. I am back. Today we got a solo run. It's just going to be me today. Sorry, I'm all by myself, and you're going to have to deal with that. Thank you very much. All right, guys, so today we're going to talk about kind of how do we pour into our culture, build some loyalty, and do that by, I hate to use the word managing, but kind of managing the waiting room, the viewing areas, things like that in our martial arts schools. So remember, the idea here is to kind of speak into business in general. So this will hold true across, this is transferable across probably any business for an entrepreneur, business owner, but, kind of particularly speaking to the martial arts school for instructors, chief instructors, and owners. How do we use the lobby and the parents that are just kind of, I hate to say just sitting around watching their kids or viewing, to build loyalty and to improve the culture of our business. So, it's a big deal and how we handle those things. And I've had some pretty big lessons in this area, some slaps in the face. And then I've had some like, okay, wow, maybe we're doing okay with that. And so remember, the parents are the backbone of our kids' programs. First and foremost, we want to serve the kids. We want to make sure that we're delivering real good martial arts, create an amazing experience for those guys, but also serving the needs of the parents. Because a lot of times parents bring their kids for particular reasons. My child needs some self-confidence, my child needs some discipline, or, my kid's not very athletic and they've tried other things and nothing fits. And so a lot of times martial arts fits, and, we end up over time helping those guys to become much better athletes just through the hand-eye coordination and the skills, flexibility, and reactions and things that they learn through our programs. And, we really need to serve those parents and, what they're looking for their children. But we never do that outside of our integrity. Remember that. In other words, we're not going to do things outside of what our normal martial arts teaching is just to serve a parent for their money. We're going to serve them with our skills. If someone comes in asking for something that's outside of our norm, I want my kid to be better at, at ballet, training with us might help them for sure, but I'm not going to teach ballet on the mat, so it has to be something inside of our, it's just kind of common sense, but just remembering that we don't want to go outside of our integrity and our character and what we actually do just to get someone's money, right? So again, the parents are the backbone and we got to serve those guys. So I'm going to share a quick story with you guys about a couple of stories, but an eye-opening experience for me. Many years ago, if you know me personally, you know much about me, I tend to be perceived as, by most people, a really highly driven guy. I think I am, goal-oriented, kind of a type A driven personality. If you look in the DISC survey, I fall in that D area. I actually did a DISC personality test one time, and the guy that administered the test said, I have never seen a D this high before. This is crazy. And D stands for kind of dominant. So you're like, you've got plans, you got direction, you know where you're going, you're driven. But I am also very much, and I think this is important here, I'm an introvert. And most people don't know that. You're like, what are you doing a podcast for? Well, I just love sharing. I love teaching. I love entrepreneurship. I love our business. I love our life. I love everything, most everything we do, right? And so I just want to share that. And I enjoy this process, but I technically am an introvert and it fits. I'm doing a solo today just for you, right? So anyway, with that said, I had a memorable lesson one time whenever I was in the back part of the building and I needed something out of the front office area. So I had to walk through the crowd, and the crowd, being the parents and the kids. Maybe it was a class transition. I don't remember specifically this time. And I just kind of blew through. Eyes forward, boom. I got to get in there and get what I need from the office and get back to my area and finish what I'm doing. I had a project going or whatever that was. And I blew through. And later that evening, we get a phone call from one of our clients, a parent, and they're upset. And, Glenann, it took the call that time and was like, hey, what's going on? And they're chatting about it. Well, Chip walked through today and didn't even speak to me. And wow, it was like, holy cow. I think there's a lot of lessons in this. And one is, we don't really realize how important we are in people's lives. I don't want to, I'm not trying to be egotistical, but like we become very important in their lives through the relationship that we develop with them by teaching their kids and helping their kids, especially whenever dealing with people's kids, to grow and to improve themselves personally. And I think sometimes our own lack of self-worth says, I'm not that important. I just got to get stuff done, right? I got to check these boxes. And so the other side of that is the importance of acknowledging the people in your building, being grateful for the people in your building, just taking a minute to recognize them and know them. So the point is, early on, this was many, many years ago, and I had this realization that I have to slow down in the crowd. And so at that time, I was getting more into reading some self-improvement, leadership books, business leadership, because I really realized I've got to learn how to run a business well. I've got to learn how to be better at relationships and how to do these things better. And one of the things that I remember from the 1 Minute Manager was management by walking around. And it was, it was not so much about that book was not so much about dealing with the client, but just walking slow through the building, taking a minute to speak to your team, ask them questions, show genuine interest. Because if you asked me at that time if I cared about those parents, I would have said, absolutely. I think the world of them. I'm thankful for them. I fully understand that they're sacrificing to take time to bring their kids to us and to pay us to work with their kids. I fully understood all of that. What I failed to realize was I was kind of being a dummy and not showing that I understood that in my action. So I would just go blowing through the crowd, do my thing, boom, walk back out. Now, if someone spoke to me, heck yes, I would say, hello, how are you? But, if no one said anything to me first, initiated the conversation, I would just blow through. So that was an eye-opening time. And we actually got more than one of those calls related to that same concept. And it really boiled back to me as kind of the namesake of the business, the alpha in the business, just kind of blowing through the crowd and not paying attention. And so it was a big lesson about kind of our culture in ways like, and it was a lesson how that could negatively impact our culture over time, because if my team is watching me doing that and they're doing that, and then that propagates, and then people begin to feel like no one cares about them, etc. So you get the gist. So that was a big lesson. And in reading and kind of studying at that time, I come across these concepts from John Maxwell and some other, high-level leadership development people out there saying, look, it's so important that you slow down and you connect with people. Just because you're an introvert, there it is, and you're maybe either not comfortable in the crowd or, and this is going to sound hopefully not too egotistical, but like you're pretty confident in who you are and you don't need a lot of social interaction to stay driven and stay focused. That doesn't mean that other people don't need that. And so again, eye-opening experience. And so some things that we need to think about is you do not have to just babysit your lobby and viewing area. That's not what I'm talking about. You don't have to be a constant presence, but you do need to be seen, walking through, slowing down, walk through before classes, walk through after classes, go slow, take your time, and think about how thankful. And I think starting our day with gratitude, every morning, I pray. I'm so thankful to Jesus for all the blessings and things that we have in our life. And I try so hard to be grateful for those things. And I hate the word try, but I'm, when you're on the go, you got to slow down and really just like go, okay, I am so thankful. And so, walking through and just saying hello to people, just a handshake, a high five, we knuckle bump with people all the time. And man, it is so great to see you just showing some of that gratitude, thanking them, asking, hey, how are you doing? How are the kids doing? Just chatting a little bit with people for a few minutes, before, after, and really even during classes. If you're not in there teaching and you have a team that's doing that, which we are very blessed to have now more than ever, take a minute to walk through the crowd and get to know the folks that are in the building. It's small moments and small things that we've learned over time build big loyalty and really improve the culture of your business. So again, just slow down walking through the crowd. We also talk sometimes about something called the 5-minute bookends. 5 minutes before class, walk through and be intentional about approaching some of the parents and compliment a kid. Like, yesterday you were watching little Johnny and he was killing it on the mat. And today in that first 5 minutes before class, you go up to little Johnny's parents, right with little Johnny there. And you go, "Hey, little Johnny, man, I was watching you yesterday and you were killing it." You compliment them in front of their parents. And that does several things. What parent does not love their kid being complimented sincerely for hard work or for doing a good job or for achieving, accomplishing, etc.? I don't know any parent that doesn't love that. And so when you do that and you take the time to do that in front of the parent too, the parent gets a chance to go, "Oh, wow, man, I love what this place does for my kid." And it just kind of reaffirms for them what's going on there. Another thing too is sometimes, "Hey, thanks for letting us have little Susie, little Johnny on the mat. Man, we are so thankful for you guys." So in that 5-minute bookend, hit a few parents, do some kind of checking in, shake some hands, knuckle bumps. How's little Johnny? Another one, how's school going? How's he doing in school? How's she doing in school? Get to know what's going on. Hey, how's that dance recital they did last week? Did it go well? I saw on social media you guys had a dance recital, and connect with those people. And that's in that little 5-minute window. And in that 5-minute window, sometimes you can share something around the tenets or maybe a theme. For us, Teamship, we've talked about it many times. It's an acronym: teachable, excellent, accountable, motivated. And, maybe you lean into that conversation and you go, "Man, yesterday when little Susie was on the mat and she was getting some feedback on her form technique or her sparring, she was being so teachable." And we love that. We love when our young leaders are coming up and learning how to receive feedback. And so in that 5-minute window, you're kind of educating them about the culture that you want, the culture that you have, about the purpose, about the how and why of what's going on. And it's important. Another thing in that 5-minute kind of pre and post class window that you can do is educate them about things going on, about events. "Hey guys, man, I'm so excited to see all the parents here today. Don't forget, in next week," and this is fresh on my mind because we just did this, "we have moms on the mat or dads on the mat. Love to see you guys on the mat with your kids, having a great time and maybe even picking up a new skill, getting a tighter connection with your family." So again, 5-minute bookends, use that 5 minutes kind of before and after. And sometimes I think that, there's a little bit of a concern whenever we're doing those bookends of getting hung up in conversations that may take a lot of time, things like that. So a couple little strategies. You don't have to be a doormat that just kind of gets walked on and ran over. And the way you do that is you start a quick conversation with someone like 3 minutes before class starts. And then there's kind of an automatic, I've got a 3-minute window here that I can have a conversation. When class starts, they'll tend to want to be focused on their kid. You can then say, "Hey, it's been great to chat with you. I kind of got to get over here and help the instructors or move on." Another thing too, that's a strategy for being concerned about getting hung in long conversations, if you're concerned about your time that much, is, when you approach a parent or you approach a client, "Hey, do you have 2 minutes? I've got a couple of minutes. I just wanted to check in with you on a couple of things." And that's kind of sets a mental boundary. That way, when you get kind of to that time when you need to go, that minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever that is, and you don't have to have a stopwatch. You don't have to be perfect. But, when you're getting there, you go, "Hey, I got to Zoom now. Man, it was so good to catch up with you." So it kind of builds in an opportunity for you to exit out. Because, yes, some of our parents tend to be pretty loquacious and they want to chit chat quite a bit. And I love it. But sometimes that can be hard because you got several parents you want to kind of get by and get to visit with a little bit. Another thing too, in those conversations that can be a little bit tough is sometimes it's actually great. Is they have ideas like, "Hey, I had an idea. Maybe y'all should try doing this or try doing that. Or yesterday I saw this or saw that." And, some things that you can do is, "Hey, thank you so much for the idea. Let me think about that a little bit." Or, hey, let me get that in front of our team so we can talk about that. I love that idea. Let me see if we have the bandwidth to maybe do something with that. Another thing sometimes I do whenever people get into kind of sharing ideas with us or things they think we can do better, number one is I always mental note it. I always go in and write it down. I share it with our team and our next instructor and staff meeting. I do always do those things. But sometimes I'll ask like, hey, what do you think your role will be in helping us implement that? kind of put their skin in the game a little bit. Like, that's a great idea, but we don't always have the bandwidth to get all those things done, even though they are good ideas sometimes. So, you got to be kind of strategic and be very respectful, very receptive, because we never want to say, oh, no, we could never do that right there on the spot, because then people won't bring you ideas. And sometimes their ideas are great feedback for what they're seeing, perceiving, and understand is happening, where you can go talk to your team and go, I think based on the idea they're having here, we might need to shift a little bit because we're not fulfilling something for these guys. And the other side is sometimes their ideas are honestly great. And you go, whoa, I never thought of that. We could actually take that and do something with it and help improve our culture, improve the things that we're sharing. So anyway, it's going to be a short run today. I just wanted to kind of get on and talk to you guys just a little bit about this idea of kind of, again, I hate the word managing, but managing the lobby, the viewing area, but managing it in a way that's highly respectful, that shows great gratitude and helps to develop some loyalty, helps to educate the parents and kind of help them with the why. Like, one of the most important questions we can answer is, why do we do what we do? Why are they doing it that way? So people can understand and go, oh, that makes sense. I want to be a part of that. I see it now. And so just some kind of takeaways for you. Be present. You don't have to be planted with them, for entire hours at a time, but be present, move through, stop by, but you don't have to just kind of set up shop with one family at a time. Use the edges of your classroom, as kind of a point of connection, so your mat's happening. Parents tend to be, for us, kind of around the edges of the mat in different seating and viewing areas. Use that as a connection point to go over and connect with the parents, and lead with a calm confidence, and parents will feel that. Always be confident in your conversation and the way that you approach things. And remember just how important your relational connection with them is, your relational connection with their child, if there's a child on the mat. And if it's an adult student, that connection with that student. It is so, so important, because we are in a relationship business, and it's important that we handle those relationships well and respectfully, and we're receptive again to ideas, and that we're always grateful. People choose, don't forget, people choose to be disciplined, to get their kids packed up, load up their gear, bring them to us, and then pay us to work with their children. And if we do that well and create a second to none experience that truly improves their lives, and we develop a culture that does that, that's structured, it's disciplined, it is fun, it is hardworking, people will be very loyal. And that's part of the idea. Leadership kind of happens at those margins in that area. Be intentional, with the parent time that you have. I hope that was helpful. Just kind of give you some ideas and some thoughts on kind of how to manage those edges of the mat, manage the parent areas, things like that. Another thing too is, remember, keep your mat vision on, and, watch, learn how to read people's faces a little bit, and expressions and demeanors. And sometimes you may pick up on things that are off, like someone's a little extra sad, like, hey, you doing okay? How's life treating you? Just kind of open up the door to let them share. Maybe, I don't know, I've used it before, maybe they lost their puppy dog yesterday, and they just needed someone to vent to for a minute. And then sometimes if they look a little disgruntled, maybe they're unhappy with something that's happening in your building, and they can give you some great feedback at that point. So anyway, slow down in the crowd, make connections, be grateful, lead with gratitude and grace and thankfulness for them being there. Remember too, we've talked about this, but if there is a problem, lead with grace and gratitude there too, because a lot of times if there is a problem, there's, even if they're wrong, there's some truth there, some things we could adjust to better ourselves. Always look for that 1% thing that we can tweak. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope it's helpful for you. Like it, subscribe, shoot us some messages. Let us know what you would like to hear about. We are so thankful for you following along, subscribing to our podcast, and having you here. If it wasn't for you guys, we would not keep it up and we would not be able to do this. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review, because we need you. We appreciate you so much, and without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success, so go out there and never be outworked.